Good evening. It's shaping up to be an economic showdown between two of the largest trading partners in the world.
The incoming U.S. president saying he is prepared to slap a 25% tariff on goods entering that country from this one. And now Canadian officials are scrambling to come up with a response. CTV's Michael Coutel reports.
Now, Canada has seen this movie before, but the sequel may not follow the same plot as the first Trump presidency. Like last time, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is calling on all political leaders to work together. But that could be easier said than done.
It was a good call.
Minutes after the threat went public, Prime Minister Trudeau reached out to Donald Trump, appealing to the president-elect that 25% tariffs will hurt both countries.
This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways.
Now, Trump claims people and drugs are pouring into the United States from Mexico and Canada. Senior government sources tell CTV News Trudeau told Trump our shared border isn't the problem. According to the Americans' own numbers, in the last year, encounters at the Canada-U.S. border have accounted for just 1.5% of the total when you include the Mexican border. More than 21,000 pounds of fentanyl have been seized at the southern border, while the amount stopped going into the U.S. from Canada is just 43 pounds.
The good news is that for decades, this collaborative work happening literally daily with American authorities and Canadian authorities has allowed us to keep both countries safe.
Many point to the renegotiated NAFTA as proof that we can weather this storm. But to do so, there's a call for a Team Canada approach, and the Prime Minister will hold a virtual meeting tomorrow with premiers to get everyone on the same page when responding to Trump.
I found his comments unfair. I found them insulting. It's like a family member stabbing you right in the heart.
But with different priorities, getting all 13 premiers and 3 opposition leaders on the same side could prove difficult.
I don't think that we can be naive enough to think that we can just argue, well, we're not as bad as Mexico, therefore give us an exemption. That's not going to fly.
A Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, is willing to put partisanship aside, but with conditions that put Canada first.
Trudeau's got to axe the carbon tax. He's got to lift the production cap on Canadian energy. He's got to rebuild our military and secure our borders.
The government hasn't said yet if it's considering counter tariffs against the United States. But Mexico's president says that could be part of the response if Trump follows through on his threat. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
Ontario's premier is leading the charge against the proposed tariffs. Doug Ford calling for a meeting.
He's concerned about this province's financial future. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live tonight with the latest. Siobhan.
Well, Nathan, we know that meeting will happen virtually, not only between Doug Ford and Premier Justin Trudeau, but all of the country's premiers. He says it's important for everybody to be rowing in the same direction, a Team Canada approach to these potential tariffs.
A stone-faced Doug Ford, frank about what he thinks is on the table.
The biggest threat we've ever received from our closest friends and ally.
A tariff threat the Premier finds insulting coming from the United States.
We do approximately, just Ontario alone, $500 billion of two-way trade.
The opposition says in musing about retaliatory tariffs, trade deals that cut out Mexico.
We are negotiating with ourselves. Number one rule in bargaining, don't negotiate with yourselves. Don't take things off the table before you even got to the table.
She's a political rival, but Bonnie Crombie says she wants Ford to succeed in these talks.
It affects our jobs, it affects our livelihood, it affects industry, it affects the cost of living. So it's very important that we present a united front.
There's anxiety about the future of Ontario's auto industry and the tens of thousands of people who rely on it to put food on the table.
Given how large it is, given the interconnectivity between us and the United States and Mexico, and how intertwined that industry is.
An assembly line that spans the continent, with a car crossing the border as many as 8 times before it's ready for driving.
50% of the cars that are made here are American brands. 50% of the components that go into every car come from the U.S. 55% of the raw materials.
The Premier stresses the U.S. is going to need to lean on Ontario for components for electric vehicles and its military.
They need our nickel. They need our lithium and all the other critical minerals, cobalt.
Ford points out some states tap into our grid to keep the lights on, and Ontario sent help to North Carolina to reconnect Americans after Hurricane Helene.
That's what friends do. That's what allies do. They don't turn their back on each other.
The Premier says Ontario has been preparing an ad campaign to air in the United States to highlight how important it is that our two economies work together, that they're stronger together. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. And the loonie fell to its lowest level in 4.5 years following Trump's tariff announcement. Our dollar was at 71.01 cents U.S. in early afternoon trading. After dipping below 71 cents earlier in the day, it closed at 71.09 cents U.S. The tariff threat is a further drag on our loonie, which has been moving lower against the American dollar since September.
6 people were taken to hospital after an early morning crash involving a stolen vehicle in Scarborough. Just ahead, we'll tell you why the province's Special Investigations Unit is now involved. They may have missed the concert, but some local Taylor Swift fans are hoping they'll get justice after Toronto police announced an arrest in an alleged ticket scam.
According to police, more than 24 people may have lost thousands of dollars. CTV's Sean Leathong has been following this story and joins us live with the latest. Sean, big update today.
Certainly, Michelle and Nathan. Many of the people we spoke to who had been caught up in this scam said they weren't hopeful for their money. What they were hoping for was a bit of justice, and they think this might be the first step. Denise Tisor of Burlington was arrested by Toronto police yesterday and charged in relation to an alleged ticket fraud scam worth as much as $300,000. These images appeared in the story we first brought you last week. Young girls surprised with the news that they would be going to one of Taylor Swift's 6 sold-out Toronto concerts, but it wasn't real.
You stole what I was looking forward to as a core memory.
Tammy Allen is a teacher in Burlington and has known Tisor for 10 years. She bought tickets for her daughter last year. She'd heard that Tisor had come through for other concerts and felt secure in the fact that they knew each other. Allen learned days before the concert that the tickets may not be real and called Tisor on the phone.
Am I breaking my daughter's heart tonight? Like, do I not have tickets? Do we not have our money? And she's like, we don't have your tickets, you don't have your money.
We tracked down Denise Tisor and went to her home last week to see if she wanted to tell her side of the story.
Hi, Denise.
As hard as it was telling her daughter, today Allen says there is some good coming from this.
But it was never about the money. It was just about being able to say to our kids that, like, you can fight back for things and things will get done. And now I feel like it really is happening.
It's a horrible thing to do.
According to Toronto police, the alleged scam involved more than 24 victims worth more than $70,000, but they say there are likely more victims.
It's alleged that she was on social media platforms such as Facebook Marketplace, using an alias, Denise Blackhawk, and offering tickets for the Taylor Swift concert in Toronto.
When we first brought you the story, one alleged victim had created a Google document where anyone who had given money to Tisor could upload their information. According to her, the count was over 100 alleged victims in multiple jurisdictions, totaling $295,000.
To actually see it now and hoping that this is the start of something big, it just feels really good. Feels really good.
Denise Tisor is charged with fraud over $5,000, possession of property obtained by crime over $5,000, 32 counts of fraud under $5,000, and 32 counts of possession of property obtained by crime under $5,000. Now, we know that Halton police had also been actively investigating Denise Tisor. I contacted them today for any update. They said they won't speak until they have an update. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. I'll send it back inside.
Thank you, Sean. Time now for a check on the forecast. There's a live shot. It's cool and windy out there tonight, so bundle up if you have plans. There's also a chance of rain or flurries over the next few days, and that seems to be the upcoming trend. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Hey, Jess.
Hey, it is November, right? So this is typical. It's just been such a warm month, and above seasonal month, record-breaking in a lot of ways, but now we're finally seeing a transition to more typical weather for this time of year. A few light showers made their way throughout the day, but overall we're fairly dry as we head into this evening, but areas further north, they've already seen that blast of wintry weather. For us, we're holding on and kind of in the low single digits, but still sitting above seasonal. Although it is much cooler and it was a very windy day, we're still holding on to weather that is just above where we should be. Right now through the islands, through Pearson, between about 4 and 5 degrees, still a pretty gusty wind the closer to the islands you get, and that doesn't really dissipate until we get well past midnight. Right at the freezing mark tonight, and then we are going to see a bit of a transition to even cooler weather Coming up, we'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, but we'll switch gears. It's time now to talk Toy Mountain. Let's check in with Andrea Case, who's over at the Scarborough Citadel. Miss Andrea, how's it going? Are you building a toy mountain?
Hi, Jess. Yes, it's a little loud here. I'm at the Scarborough Citadel. You can see the band is playing here. They're just going to play a couple seconds more for us, and then they're going to wrap it up. On cue. Perfect. Thanks, guys. Well, we're here at the Scarborough Citadel, and we are here with Major Mark, an officer of the Salvation Army Church. And this is your church. This is where you minister every week to the people in this community.
Yes, this is a Christian church right here. The Salvation Army at Lawrence and Warden.
How long have you been here?
Oh, the Salvation Army here in this corner for, I don't know, I don't remember, I don't know how many years.
How long have you been here?
Me? Oh,
yeah.
What time is it? I've been here for 1 year, almost 1 year.
1 year. And being a community church, what does that mean? People often go to church, but they perhaps don't know what a community church is.
Everyone's welcome. Whosoever will may come. Everyone is welcome to come. Yeah, the community. It's for the community. They can come.
And you, as you said, you welcome all. And at this time of year, a lot of people have a lot of issues, a lot of wishes, a lot of hopes. How can you help fulfill that?
Well, we're open to Christmas time is an amazing time to reach into the community. That's a great time for people to give to others. For 29 years, CTV News and Salvation Army are working together with this Toy Mountain. 29 years. Can you believe that? Almost 30 years of this. And it's really made a difference. But it's more than a toy. And can I remind people, too, it's not more than just a toy. It's also, there's 365 days in a year. I want to remind people that a toy is one day, but 364 days after that. Always need the help to reach into our community.
Well, we're going to learn more about the community church here, the Citadel. We're going to meet someone who has been a benefactor of some of the things that you have donated to the Salvation Army this time of year. So I'm going to send it back to the studio, and we'll have more for you from this community church in Scarborough.
All right, looking forward to it. Thank you, Andrea. Well, to other news, 6 people were sent to hospital after a crash involving a stolen vehicle this morning in Scarborough.
Tonight, the province's Special Investigations Unit is looking into the role Toronto police may have played in the moments leading up to the crash. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports.
It's a crash injuring 6 people under scrutiny. 4 of them teens, say paramedics, from this stolen grey Honda, and 2 others in the white Audi. Ontario's Special Investigations Unit is working to understand the role Toronto police had when the vehicles collided.
That's really dangerous.
JC Dela Cruz is a regular at this TTC stop. The SIU says around 10:30 Monday night, officers were doing traffic enforcement when they observed the Honda speeding and followed it. The Honda crashed with the Audi in the intersection of Brimley and Eglinton in Scarborough before driving into the bus shelter. Thankfully, no one was there at the time.
That's a really layered and scary event to have happened, especially after it happened afterwards when the police were on them. Yeah, that's terrible.
After the stolen grey Honda hit the bus shelter, it seems to have settled just over here on the road. There is still debris and shattered glass all over this area. Paramedics say the 4 teenagers were rushed to hospital with serious, non-life-threatening injuries. The SIU now says all 6 went to hospital for assessment. Nick Karashis also uses this stop regularly. He says people waiting for the bus shouldn't be at risk and isn't happy with the criminal activity on the streets.
It's too much. In today's technology, they should have trackers on the cars so they can track them down. So that way, nobody can steal anything.
The intersection of Eglinton and Brimley was shut down overnight. Both vehicles weren't hauled away until the morning, with both roads not fully reopened until after 9 a.m. Police say 2 males and 2 females have been arrested. Anyone with photos, videos, or information is being urged to contact the SIU. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Police are investigating an early morning shooting in Etobicoke. A man was found with a gunshot wound near Dixon and Martin Grove just before 7. Police say he was taken to hospital with injuries but will survive. So far, there's no word on any suspects.
Emergency crews were called to an industrial accident near Lower Jarvis and Queens Quay just before noon. According to first responders, a worker at that site was injured in a construction pit and had to be extricated. Paramedics say the man in his 20s was taken to a trauma center in stable condition.
Niagara Regional Police have charged 3 people in connection with a fatal industrial fire nearly 2 years ago. A man in his 30s was injured in the massive fire and explosions at a hazardous materials company in St. Catharines in January 2023. He later died in hospital. Police now say 2 people from Petersburg and 1 from Scotland, Ontario, have been charged with criminal negligence causing death and arson by negligence.
The province is working to fast-track a bill which would close 10 supervised consumption sites without any public consultations. The Ford government wants to close all sites within 200 meters of a school or daycare, as well as prevent new ones from opening. Instead, they want to create 19 new homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs, along with 375 supportive housing units. The infrastructure is expected to cost $378 million. Government House Leader Steve Clack has tabled a motion to send the bill from second reading to third reading, bypassing the committee stage.
Notorious serial killer Paul Bernardo has been denied parole for a 3rd time.
He appeared before the Parole Board of Canada today, as did family members of the 2 young women he murdered, who offered up emotional victim impact statements. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin reports.
Bernardo said he worked as a groundskeeper in prison. He was asked to explain what led him to carry out his heinous crimes. After saying it was a good thing he was caught for society, he said he became sadistic because it is the ultimate power, that he was angry at the world, describing a troubled upbringing. A commissioner pointed out that while sadly many people have poor social histories, they don't go on to do what Bernardo did. Bernardo, now 60 years old, stared straight ahead as 6 heart-wrenching victim impact statements were read. Kristen French's mother spoke of being re-traumatized every time a parole hearing comes up. Each day, I'm not able to hug her, kiss her, tell her how proud I am of her and how very much I love her. For a mother, that is agony for which there are no words. This via a glitchy remote connection. She was unable to make the trip after the parole board allowed victims in person just last week. Leslie Mahaffey's brother, Ryan, also spoke of losing his sister when he was just 7 years old, of his daughter who looks strikingly like her aunt. He didn't just steal my sister, mentor, and best friend, but through grief, my mother and father. Mahaffey's mother delivered a powerful statement in person. She was at one point overwhelmed, and longtime family lawyer Tim Danson read part of her statement. Having murdered my daughter and violated her with unspeakable sadistic brutality, my duty, my responsibility, and that of my family is to protect Leslie's memory, saying she needed justice for her daughter. And justice, the victims insisted, is that Bernardo spend the rest of his life behind bars. It took just 30 minutes of deliberations for the parole board to conclude that the risk of releasing Bernardo was just too high. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, La Macasa, Quebec.
The polls in Nova Scotia will be closing in less than 2 hours from now as voters choose their next provincial government. Progressive Conservative leader Tim Houston cast his ballot this morning. His party is seeking its 2nd consecutive majority. Houston called a snap election on October 27, saying it was needed for a stronger mandate against the federal government on issues like carbon pricing. Polls suggest the NDP and Liberals are in a close race for 2nd place.
We turn now to a major development in the Middle East. A ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah will take effect tomorrow. Fighting across the Israeli-Lebanese border scheduled to end at 4 a.m. local time. Israel will gradually withdraw its forces over a period of 60 days. And Lebanon's army will take control of territory near the border to ensure Hezbollah does not rebuild its infrastructure. U.S. President Joe Biden announced this afternoon both sides had accepted the deal brokered by the United States and France.
Civilians on both sides will soon be able to safely return to their communities and begin to rebuild their homes, their schools, their farms, their businesses, and their very lives.
Israel's prime minister vowed his country will respond forcefully to any violation of the deal by Hezbollah. Benjamin Netanyahu says the ceasefire will allow Israel to focus on the threat from Iran, replenish depleted arms supplies, and isolate Hamas. In Ukraine, 2 people were killed in a strike on the city of Sumy today. The Ukrainian Air Force says Russia launched 188 drones against most regions of the country. The nighttime attacks were described as a record number of drones deployed in a single strike. Ukraine says most of the weapons were intercepted, but apartment buildings and crucial infrastructure were damaged, including the national power grid. No casualties were reported in the 17 targeted regions.
In Italy, the G7 foreign ministers condemned Russia's use of North Korean troops in Ukraine. In their final communique today, they also denounced what the ministers called Moscow's irresponsible and threatening nuclear rhetoric and vowed to continue supporting Ukraine's territorial integrity and independence. The G7 has been at the forefront of providing military and economic assistance to Kyiv.
Coming up, preparations at Pearson Airport to prevent passenger delays this winter. Airport officials show off their fleet of snowblowers to keep the runway clear and your trip on time.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, 2 new reports show as interest rates come down, more Canadians are taking on more debt, and some are finding it hard to pay their bills. It's happening as we get ready to enter the busy holiday shopping season. That story is just ahead.
And the daily hotspots are getting cooler and cooler as we head in towards the end of the month and step into what is going to be a seasonal and then below seasonal trend. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including the chance of a little flurry activity. And stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Interest rate cuts by the Bank of Canada appear to have stimulated spending, with more consumers taking on added debt.
As more people renegotiate their mortgages and take on credit card debt and car loans, there's also been an increase in delinquency rates. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. There are new reports from both Equifax and TransUnion, and they say the high cost of living is still an issue for many Canadians. More people have to take on more debt, and that's leading to missed loan and credit card payments. Interest rates and inflation may be coming down, but for many Canadians, it's not happening soon enough. Consumer debt in the third quarter of this year hit a record high of $2.5 trillion. That's a 4.1% increase over last year. As consumers take on more debt, serious delinquencies when accounts are 90 days or more past due have increased almost 2% over last year.
Consumers just are not able to keep current on all their payments in all the cases. So we are seeing delinquencies creep up a bit.
TransUnion says high housing costs, the price of groceries, and other inflationary pressures are making it harder to pay the bills, especially for younger millennial and Gen Z consumers who range in age from their teens to early 40s.
Cost of living is high, and at the same time, interest rates are higher. So I think that creates a payment shock for a lot of Canadians, where all of a sudden, things are less affordable, and the cost of covering your debt becomes a little bit more expensive.
Equifax also issued a report which said interest rate cuts are giving some relief to consumers, but it found that newcomers to Canada and those new to credit are having issues making their payments. It found 1.3 million consumers missed credit payments in the third quarter of this year. That's an increase of more than 10% over last year.
That group of consumers that entered Canada, we've seen their debt levels growing at a faster rate than we typically would expect. And we're seeing missed payments come through earlier and faster than we normally see for that newcomer population.
As we enter the holiday spending period, both credit reporting agencies say it's important for consumers to not miss any payments. Doing that will eventually lead to higher borrowing costs.
If you do go out and want to apply for additional credit elsewhere, you may find it is harder to get access to credit. You may find you don't get the best rates because potentially those missed payments can impact your score.
And as interest rates come down, car loans are going up. Bank loans to buy a vehicle were up almost 3% over last year, and people borrowing money to buy cars from non-bank sources jumped 12%. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, no snow just yet, but Pearson Airport's preparing for the arrival of winter.
Today, they showed off their plans to keep the planes coming and going even when the snow starts to fall. CTV's Rahim Ladani reports.
So I can control the nozzle, right, and also have the spray.
While this may look like a video game, every move could mean the difference between a smooth trip in and out of Pearson International Airport and your vacation being delayed this winter season.
Unlike, municipalities that sometimes wait till there's some snow on the ground, our approach is as soon as that first snowflake is falling, we're out there.
To help minimize travel delays, the airport has purchased 40 new pieces of equipment over the last 2 years, When there's a major snow event, the goal is to clear a runway within 15 minutes. This is not your average residential snowblower. It can travel 30 kilometers per hour, has 1,500 horsepower, and can shoot the snow 100 feet in the air. The airport now has 161 snow removing vehicles, including 3 of these under-wing de-icing units. They're the only ones in North America.
Frost conditions can be anywhere up to 2 minutes for us to de-ice it. Snow conditions could be anywhere from 10 to 14 minutes to de-ice it. It's all weighted on the amount of contamination that's on the aircraft when it comes over.
While last year's winter was mild, there were some significant storms, which caused dozens of delays and canceled flights. Airport officials say they've been training nearly 400 employees since September to efficiently respond when a snowstorm hits this season.
What type of snow? What time of day is this occurring? If it happens overnight, there's a big difference than if it's happening right now. The airplanes are going to be coming in. They won't have that 10-15 centimeters of snow on the aircraft.
Different scenarios. Pearson staff say they're prepared for this winter to get passengers on the plane and quickly on their way. Raheem Ladani, CTV News.
Now, that's some serious equipment. They probably won't have to bring out the big guns this week, but certainly there are flurries in the forecast that might be a little magical.
Yeah, I know the kids especially want to see snow. I don't mind holding off, but you know it's coming sooner or later.
'Tis the season. I feel like we are likely to see flurries before the week is all said and done, especially in through the weekend. You won't need the shovel. You won't be able to get the sleds out just yet. I know a lot of people probably got them for the holidays last year and weren't really able to use them for the majority of the season, but we are tiptoeing into the more wintry type weather as we wrap up this week. It was a beautiful day, though. We saw some wind out there, a little rain, and the rain makes for beautiful rainbows. We had one earlier today, a great shot by the chopper, and really and truly, the rain this time of year, I don't mind because it's still relatively mild, but that is going to change as we head into the next couple of days. The wind was doing the most as we made our way throughout the day today, and that continues as we make our way into the early part of our evening, but we're dry for now. We're at 4 here in the city, 3 through Windsor, 2 through Ottawa. Northern Ontario already experiencing that blast of wintry weather and the cooler temperatures. What is west usually moves east, so we will eventually see it, but for now we're holding off. Tonight, dropping down to 0, so right at that freezing mark. We should be at -2. Yes, it's cold, but we're not as cold as we could be. And that's the same really for almost everybody right across southern Ontario. Into the day tomorrow, sunny, pretty seasonal, the wind at a much more manageable point. So it's actually a really beautiful mark to the middle of the week for this time of year. And it's the same really for everybody. The bulk of the system we had pushes into towards Quebec. It will rotate back into northern Ontario, bringing some snow for them. But for us, we're holding off at least for now. As we head throughout the rest of our evening, not much going on, a pretty nice night. A few kind of streamers off of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, but they're staying pretty far west and north of us. So overall, we're okay tonight. Into the day tomorrow, a little cloud cover to start the day and then beautiful sunshine, a much more manageable, very moderate westerly wind. And from start to finish, it's quite a nice day. We head in towards our Thursday morning. We are watching for active weather, but focusing more towards Hamilton and Niagara, and then skipping us almost entirely here in the city and making its way into eastern Ontario. So we do escape the bulk of it, but it is in the vicinity, so it will likely pop up if you have weather icons that you're looking at. Temperature-wise, we stay relatively cool, but it is again near that seasonal point. We wrap up Thursday. We see more of those streamers thanks to a northwesterly wind, creating a little bit of lake effect flurry activity, but the bulk of it stays away from at least the downtown core and the bulk of the GTA. As we make our way in towards our Friday evening through to our weekend, that's the best chance for us to see the flurry activity in the downtown core and in the GTA. Fairly seasonal, really right through to the end of the work and school week. We do watch for the best chance of a very light flurry Friday, kind of later in the day. You won't need the shovel, but it is always kind of fun to see. As we head in towards the weekend, the chance of flurries is going to linger. Again, this is not a measurable snow, but we are tiptoeing into that time of year when we get the cooler temperatures and the precipitation that falls is falling more as a flurry than as a snow as a rain or a wet snow. Heading in towards Monday, it tapers off, and then by Tuesday, it is sunny, but it is cool. We'll switch gears again, and it's feeling a lot like Christmas outside, and it's the season for giving. Speaking of which, let's check in with Andrea Case, who's helping to build a toy mountain at the Scarborough Citadel. Andrea, how's it going? I see the bells are ringing.
The bells are ringing, Jess. Yes, they are. The reason I have the bells, they're going to take them away from me because I will want to keep them, is because the volunteer program, you see the folks at the malls, the kettle program, and that is so important for the Salvation Army. Don Halsey's here to tell us all about it. You're the coordinator for the volunteer program. Don, tell the folks at home where does the money go?
The money is what we use year-round to help run our food bank, to run the other programs that we have here at the church. We have seniors programs, we have kids programs. In fact, tonight we have our kids here learning musical instruments, and we support 300 families a month through our food bank and helping with other household goods. And also newcomers. We've seen a lot of newcomers over the last few years. We're able to help them establish themselves in their new homes.
Wow, and so that happens at Salvation Army locations all throughout the GTA?
Absolutely, right across the country. And again, we could not do this without volunteers. We have a fantastic group of volunteers, and especially at Christmas with our kettle campaign. So many more that we need, and we can always use more volunteers.
Well, speaking of volunteers, we just happen to have a couple of them right here. We have Rosie and we have Natalie. Rosie, tell us why you help out at the Salvation Army.
I like to give back to my community because I came here like an immigrant too, and I get help, and this is how I want to give back to them.
How long ago have you been involved with the Salvation Army?
21 years.
21 years?
Yes.
And you're still involved with the Salvation Army?
Yes.
Why?
I live next to this building, and they're wonderful people. They do the best for the people, for us, who came here with nothing, and they give us everything, what we need.
You said your son basically grew up here?
Yes, my son grew up here in this church, and he's a nice boy.
He has to be, he's your son. Okay, so you've been here for many, many years, and Natalie, you've just been here for about a year. Tell me why you volunteer at the Salvation Army. Hi, kids, how are you?
Good.
Good?
Good.
Good, okay.
Well, I like to give back to the community, and it feels good to help other people, and I love doing it.
And so what do you do to help out?
Well, I volunteer in the food bank. I sort the goods and for when the customers come for the other days, and that's all I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to hang on to this, and I'm going to explain why a little later on, because now you don't just have to put money in the kettle, you can tap. So there you go. Let's let the band play us out here, and coming up later on in the show, we'll have more from the Citadel here in Scarborough.
Easy access to bathrooms is never far from the minds of patients with irritable bowel disease.
And downtown today, there was a very visual reminder of how we can all help. Here's our health reporter, Pauline Chan.
As commuters rush by Toronto's Union Station, a reminder just across the street of how important access to bathrooms can be.
It is a little bit intimidating and anxiety-provoking not knowing where the washroom is, especially for individuals who may go to the washroom up to 20 times a day.
Lena Alugali is a busy nursing student who deals with IBD every day. Has it forced her to limit her activities?
I definitely have in the past, but I do use the Go Here app, and I find that really helps me in planning my day.
So the Go Here app is actually a washroom access program, and the main part of it is it's a digital app that's available to anyone. It's free to download.
The Go Here app has been around for several years, but Crohn's and Colitis Canada is hoping to encourage more businesses across the country to open up their facilities to those who have a medical need for them.
Hoping that we will have other businesses, when they see that there's a need for this, for Canadians who may need access to a washroom, to join the program, to register and to have a PIN on our Google app.
And the Go Here app isn't just for people with IBD. For example, mothers with young children could find it useful. Inflammatory bowel disease can affect anyone at any age, and experts predict that by 2035, 1% of Canadians will have the disease. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A report on the 2019 hack at Life Labs found the company was not doing enough to protect client data. The health data of millions of Canadians was compromised in the hack, and the company had tried in court to prevent the public release of a report on the incident. The report found Life Labs failed to take reasonable steps to protect clients' data while also collecting more personal health information than was reasonably necessary. The report ordered Life Labs to address a number of issues, such as appropriately staffing its security team. The company has complied with all the orders and recommendations.
For the second straight day, Drake has taken legal action against Universal Music Group.
No face, no face, no face, no face, no face, no face, no face.
Yesterday, the Toronto rapper filed in New York alleging UMG falsely inflated the popularity of Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us on Spotify and other streaming services. The song attacked Drake amid a bitter feud between the two hip-hop superstars. The record company calls the allegations offensive and untrue. Today, Drake filed in Texas accusing UMG of irregular and inappropriate business practices to get radio airplay for the song.
Taylor Swift has moved on after her historic 6-show run at Rogers Centre, but she has not forgotten us. The pop superstar posted a message on Instagram today that reads in part, "Our 6 shows in Toronto were so incredible. It was awesome to play in Canada after so much time. As always, the fans in Toronto treated us like it was a hometown show. Couldn't have asked for more love or generosity from the people who came out. The emotions have gotten pretty heightened for me and the rest of the team because it's gotten extremely real for us. Our next city will be the last one of the Eras tour and the closing of the most extraordinary chapter of my life so far." And that next city Swift referred to is Vancouver, where it is estimated the Eras tour will have a $157 million impact on the local economy there. More than 150,000 Swifties are due for the 3 concerts, December 6th, 7th, and 8th. When she was here, Destination Toronto estimated her series of shows would generate $282 million for the economy.
After the break, more carrots have been recalled across the country because of an E. coli outbreak. Details of the potentially deadly contamination coming up.
Biggest threat we've ever received from our closest friends and ally.
Updating our top stories, Canada is responding to a threat from the incoming U.S. president to slap a 25% tariff on all goods entering that country from this one. The Prime Minister and Canada's premiers will hold a call tomorrow to try and come up with a Team Canada approach.
But it was never about the money. It was just about being able to say to our kids that, like, you can fight back for things and things will get done. And now I feel like it really is happening.
They may not have gotten to see Taylor Swift perform, but a group of GTA residents who say they were victims of an alleged ticket scam may now get justice. Toronto police have charged a Burlington woman with 32 counts of fraud and 32 counts of possession of property obtained by crime.
Like, municipalities that sometimes wait till there's some snow on the ground. Our approach is as soon as that first snowflake is falling, we're out there.
And with winter approaching, staff at Pearson Airport say they are ready. The airport has purchased 40 new pieces of equipment to help deal with our winter weather. Nearly 400 employees have been training since September to try and minimize weather-related delays to arrivals and departures.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
The markets were shaken today by Donald Trump's threat to slap import tariffs on America's 2 biggest trading partners. Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg brings us the latest in business.
Hello there. Canadian stocks and the loonie fell today after U.S. President-elect Donald Trump threatened to slap 25% import levies on all products from Mexico and Canada. However, both Canadian stocks and the currency recovered a lot of those losses later on the day on hopes that this may be just an aggressive negotiating stance by Trump. The Canadian dollar finished above 71 cents U.S. Carl Shamotta, chief market strategist at Corpay in Toronto, said, quote, "We're seeing the use of economic warfare instruments. Markets were not taking Trump seriously or literally, and we're beginning to transition out of that." Trump is complaining about security at the Mexican and Canadian borders. Ottawa trade lawyer William Perrin said, quote, "There should be a way here to give Trump a win, save face, and not have that 25% tariff apply." The Canadian dollar traded at 71.09 U.S. cents, down just over half a cent. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $68.77, down 17 cents. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select Oil, $56.33 US a barrel, down $2.15. And the TSX Composite ended at 25,405.14, down just over 5 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
More carrots have been recalled by Health Canada because of a potential E. coli contamination. The affected products are 365 Whole Foods Market organic carrots distributed in BC and Ontario. 6 different types of carrot products, including baby and petite varieties, are being recalled from the 365 brand. The previous carrot recall involved other brands of organic carrots, including Compliments and PC. To date, no illnesses have been reported in Canada.
Food Banks Mississauga and Canada Helps are putting out a call for aid on Giving Tuesday as more people just struggle to make ends meet. Food Banks Canada says they're experiencing an unprecedented surge in demand, with 1 in 13 Mississauga residents now relying on food banks. Mississauga officially declared food insecurity an emergency. A food insecurity emergency earlier this month. The food bank says the fastest growing user is single adults whose rent eats up almost all of their monthly income.
Ultimately, is that the cost of living has gone up faster than people's incomes. That's the bottom line. Whether they're working, whether they're the 35% of our clients who are on social assistance, whether they're, surviving on old age security or whatever it is, it's just not enough to pay for how much life costs, and specifically housing. The average food bank user in Mississauga's annual income is about $17,000. The annual cost to rent a very small apartment in Mississauga is $17,000. And so people just don't have enough money.
Canada Helps also notes the ongoing Canada Post strike is hampering monetary donations they would normally receive by mail.
The city is celebrating the start of construction on a new transit-oriented housing project. Mayor Olivia Chow helped break ground on the site near Wilson Station this morning. It's a former commuter parking lot, but once complete, the complex will have nearly 1,500 homes, including more than 500 affordable rentals.
Okay, so you heard a little earlier how important it is that you donate to the Salvation Army. So if you see this in a mall and no one is manning the kettle or personing the kettle, you can tap a card, your debit card, $5, $10, or $20. They don't need a person to be there. So if you see it, you can donate. If you see a person, you can also donate by putting money in the kettle. You know how important it is. We've just heard that this is how the Salvation Army's programs are funded. I'm Andrea Case at the Citadel in Scarborough. We'll have more coming up after the break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Before we go tonight, one last check-in with CTV's Andrea Case.
She's live at the Scarborough Citadel as part of our Toy Mountain 29th annual campaign. You've been having some fun there, Andrea.
I certainly have, Michelle and Nathan. Before we go, I just want to say hi to Hannah and Peter, who've been here supporting us. Major Mark, thank you for having us. The band is going to play us out. But before that, our friend Aaron is here. And Aaron, let's talk a little bit about, it's been a bit of a subdued day today, but just equally as important, we're still building a mountain of toys. We're only in week 2. Tell the folks at home about how important this time of year is.
This time of the year is so important. We are supporting over 70,000 children across the GTA. And I would urge those who are going to get out into the malls and donate a gift to think about purchasing toys for those age groups. Babies 0 to 3 years of age, tweens that 10 to 13 years of age. We historically see less donations for them, so if they can, that would be wonderful. You can also donate online at toymountain.ca or text to donate, text toys to 30333 to make a $25 donation. So many ways.
How pumped are you about this campaign so far?
So pumped. We've seen so many generous givers, some great schools that we visited, so we're really, really excited.
Okay. So tomorrow, where are we tomorrow?
We are at IKEA tomorrow up in North York, so people can come out and join us there. And later in the week, we'll be at Legoland Discovery Center as well in CF Markville.
Okay, so we'll let the band play us out. Tomorrow we'll be at IKEA, one of the new sponsors for Toy Mountain, as we build a mountain of toys. Take it away, band.
Sounds great. So glad you can tap now. It's a little easier to make a payment.
It's never been easier to give. Ugh, love those live instruments. Okay, so we've got a lot coming Toy Mountain-wise this week, but also weather-wise, what are we expecting?
So much happening. We are seeing a transition to much more standard fall weather as we step in towards the end of the month. We're likely to hold off from the flurry activity until probably Friday through the weekend. By no means you need the shovel, but a good idea just to prepare yourself almost mentally and emotionally for seeing that first snow. Dry though tonight, and we're holding on at a fairly seasonal point right now, sitting at 4 degrees. Still kind of a breezy wind, but that will let up a little bit as we get past midnight. Now, heading into the day, tomorrow we mark the middle of the week with some sunshine, fairly seasonal, but that flurry activity starts to trickle in towards the GTA as we head in towards the end of the week. The best chance to really see some of the white stuff probably on Sunday, and then it starts to get cold. But you know what? It is the end of November after all. This is typical for this time of year.
We'll be ready for it. Thank you, Jess. Well, that's it for us, but you can join Omar Said-Janina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a wonderful night.